Hey everybody, Baldoric here. Today we are going to be talking about Hector. The Resplendent version of him just came out. This is the first Resplendent hero of May 2020. And I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of go over some ways to build him since everyone with the FEH Pass is getting a free copy. And you might be wondering, okay, well how do I build him? How do I use Hector? So a green armored unit is not anything that we haven't seen before. There are lots of ways you can build him. If you watch my arena video, you've seen how I built Sheena, and it's going to be a similar way of building that, just not as bulky. We're going to be building more for damage. So, there are, as always, I'm going to have 3 builds. Let's get into the first one, because I think this one is the most common way to use Hector, is some sort of arena scoring build. He does have a good amount of BST, and considering the Resplendent bonus, that BST is going up, which is really great. But let's talk about what makes this build good. Berserker mods, his weapon is fantastic because it immediately gives him a special cooldown charge -1, and when your special triggers, it does +10 damage, which means no matter what you're already doing for damage, you're going to get an additional 10 anytime your special procs. Rally Attack Res Plus, it can be any of those types of skills. That's just for scoring purposes. You know how that works. Aether is because with a combination of Bold Fighter and Berserker mods, every 2 attacks, you basically are going to be getting an Aether off. Rather, the first 2 attacks you get that Aether off, which is going to be great because Aether itself is going to be a good damage boost. You get a good amount of damage output and health back by using Aether, and then you get additional damage thanks to Berserker mod, so that kind of combos really well. He already has a base attack of 62, and then when you add in things like the Joint Hone Attack, if you do get to use it on that turn, and Sturdy Blow, if it's just Sturdy Blow, since that's the most consistent, you are going to have 66 attack and 48 defense. If you get the Joint Hone Attack as well, you're going up to 71 attack. And that is not factoring in any potential buffs for any of his stats with your allies. Legendary heroes, things like that. So, a lot of damage coming out for him. Distant counter is pretty self-explanatory. It's just so that he has range coverage as well, though he really suffers in the res category. The problem that you're going to run into with Hector, and it really is a big problem, are like dragon units and any sort of ranged tome users. So you're going to want to make sure that there are people on your team that can counter that. So they have either dragon effectiveness or there's someone that can tank res really well. That's really something you're going to need to be able to use Hector in arena efficiently, and to make sure that anything that's going to counter him gets countered itself. So you need to have that kind of coverage to really be able to use him in arena well. Okay, so pretty standard build, not a whole lot to talk to here. Let's jump into how I think he could be used in Aether raids. Now this is kind of a weird one, but let's talk a little bit about why I have it built this way. So we know Berserker mods, we get that -1 and the +10 damage. Reposition we don't have to go into, but Gale Force. So here's the thing. There's actually a really fun way you can build Hector with Gale Force. And it involves having a Dancer and another Gale Force unit, which is a pretty standard Gale Force strat. But the way this is going to work, and it's going to be difficult because Armor Stride needs to happen, and he can't be next to somebody, so you can't just have like somebody sitting next to him, smite him in. You'd have to set up so that Hector is a space away from all those units. But what is good is with the Armored Stride, as long as he's not next to anybody, he gets that 2 movement, which means you don't have to have another armor, though you could. But Gale Force is going to happen every 2 attacks because of Bold Fighter. So, if you have a Dancer, he can be smited in, if you do it correctly, get that 1 big hit off, dance him with either whether you have to move that Dancer up or you have a skill that makes it so that the Dancer can go to him, like Wings of Mercy or something like that, you hit a trap, whatever it is. Dance him, he attacks again, Gale Force attacks again, and then if you have another Gale Force ally that has Wings of Mercy that can go in and do something similar with like a Heavy Blade or something like that, you can get potentially 2 more kills from that unit depending on who that unit is. Now, there are some really good allies that actually work even better with this build. Like, you could use something like Harden works really well with this. He's actually pretty good for Gale Force. Another really good one, which is kind of surprising, is Valentine's Day Ike. the like flower Ike actually works really well because of his high speed stat, so he does get to double. You just want to make sure his attack stat isn't gigantic so that he doesn't kill on the first hit, because the second one that comes in has to hit twice. You have to do something like a flashing blade with Ike, hit twice so that you get that Gale Force proc, as long as you have an appropriate build like a slaying sword or something like that. And you will get that Gale Force off and he gets to attack again. Then all you have to do is leave that one unit on the enemy team that you know you can survive with those 2 units, right? So it can work. It's extremely situational because the setup for this is difficult. It's very hard to pull off, but if you get to do it, you can pretty much sweep the majority of a team for Aether Raid, their Aether Raid defense team rather, with these units. Now, the thing with him though is that you're going to want to have to you do need to make sure that whatever unit you're pairing up with him works well with Gale Force and consistently gets those 2 hits. But you don't need to use the Ike. You could use any other Gale Force unit. I was just thinking of an armored example so that you could switch this to like, Armored Stride or something like that. I already have Armored Stride, whatever the other one is, Armor March. But there's lots of different ways you can build him. Lots of different ways you can do that sort of Gale Force strat. This is just kind of a fun way to do it. Now I did put him on Astra. The reason I put him on Astra is because you get the defense boost from Naga and the attack boost from Altina, which really combos well with his kit, because those are 2 of his best stats. So I do think it works pretty well on that kind of a season, but it is an extremely situational way it's going to work. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about doing this kind of a build. And lastly, we have the budget build. Now the budget build is pretty self-explanatory. However, this build actually works well in a lot of different modes, including Aether Raid defense. However, I say Aether Raid defense, but keep in mind that armors are very limited in Aether Raid defense. You don't want to, you don't want to really use it that much, but it can work if you want to try it. With this build, you have Ignis, which scales off his defense stat, which gets increased with Sturdy Blow. But it already has a solid 39 defense with no Dragon Flowers, anything like that. This is a totally neutral, fresh out of the Fey Pass Hector. You still have 39 defense, which is going to scale well with Ignis. Berserk Armad is going to decrease that cooldown. Wrath can decrease that cooldown. And Wrath, in addition to Berserk, gives that additional plus 10 damage, which means when it procs, you're doing plus 20 damage. So, honestly, for not a lot of investment, you have like a 1-turn Ignis that's going to proc into an additional plus 20 damage in addition to scaling with his defense, which goes up with Sturdy Blow, because he's going to have 58 attack, 43 defense, Ignis bonus into that, what did I just say, 58 attack, plus 20 damage. He does a lot of damage, right? Now, C-Slot, I put Panic Ploy here because he does have a pretty respectable 54 HP. 54 HP is going to be able to hit a lot of targets, especially non-armor targets. If you are going to be stacking him with an armor group, you might want to change this to be something like a Ward or Goad Armor, obviously. But this is like a general use build, like you're going to use him as a bonus unit, you want to use him for some reason like that in Arena and you don't have the merge potential, but you just want to use him as a bonus unit. Something like this will work. Aether Raid defense, this will work okay. The problem with it though is that most people are going to be able to play around armor units pretty easy because they have that one movement. You'd have to have somebody else with Armor March to boost him, like to get that extra movement to make it work. But he does go in and do a lot of damage if you want that to happen. So if you want to throw him in something like that, you could. I personally don't recommend it, but it can work. I personally recommend this build for something like Arena and you're just using him as a bonus unit, or just like a PvE in general. It should work pretty good. So that about covers it for today though. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoy content like this, please consider subscribing. I'm going to be posting more videos like this in the future. Every time a hero comes out, or a Resplendent hero or something like that, I usually cover it. I am going to be covering our new Grand Hero Battle unit within a couple days. I've been pretty busy, otherwise I would have been covering the Weapon Refines and that other unit this week. However, I've had a lot going on, so they're coming, they're in the pipeline, I just haven't got to it yet. This is the first unit I actually got to sit down and analyze, so thought I'd do it today since he just came out today. Anyways, if you want more updates from me, please consider following my Twitter. It's in my YouTube channel, and I will be posting anytime anything new comes out in Fire Emblem Heroes. I post that there. All my builds, things that I'm doing, I post that there too. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time.